That was amazing. It's funny because you updated the book from 18 years ago. How was the process? When did you realize that you were ready to put more part of the story in this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have seen a lot of progress in my life, and I helped create a lot of it. I'm 77 years old, and I was an original member of NOW when NOW first began, and we have corrected a lot of the difficulties. But there are still many, many things to be resolved, and I want people to understand the history, to understand that women's issues have always been essential to American history and to the history of democracy. So that's why I spend my time writing history.
Yes. When did you realize that that was your call to talk about the woman's history?
When did I realize that I wanted to do this?
Yes.
It was actually in a class that I took at Harvard in the summer of 1969, and it was a class on immigration. And the professor paid almost no attention to women in talking about immigration. But he did say one day that women were more likely to get homesick and want to go back to Europe. And this was before the big influx from Latin America. This was in, so the course concentrated on immigrants from Europe. And so I asked him if he had any statistics to prove that, and he said no. Apparently the question never occurred to him. So I started looking around and found that they didn't even keep records on returning to Europe until 1910, and then those records showed that it was overwhelmingly men who went back home. Women came as a permanent change in their lifestyle. Men came as kind of a lark to see whether or not it would work out. And unfortunately, many of those men established families in both places. There was a lot of undetected bigamy of these men having a family, left a family back in Europe, and then created another family in America. And that's a question, a historical question that still lacks exploration. So it was that class and the professor's kind of dismissive attitude that changed me. One more thing I'll add about that class. This was specifically a motivation for me. He said that women were likely not to learn English, that they stayed home and more or less sulked while men went out and got jobs and adjusted faster. And I said, wait a minute, I had a Norwegian grandmother and a German grandmother who got jobs in homes in Minnesota. And when you're working in a home, don't you learn much faster how Americans live than if you're a Hungarian working in the steel mills with other Hungarians? And again, that question hadn't crossed his mind. So that was what motivated my first book, Foreign and Female, published in 1986.
That's amazing. And that's how I felt when I was reading this book about those amazing women. I was asking myself, I wonder what shocked you more about all the things that you discovered from women in the history. I don't know. I guess so many things, but something that kept your mind. Which woman shocked you? Which woman history shocked you more and kept in your soul, in your mind?
Right. If nobody who's alive. My heroes are those I read about, who have been dead for quite a while. And my very favorite role model is a woman named Lucretia Mott, who lived in Philadelphia. And she was just an amazing woman. She was a Quaker, so she was always very polite and did not get angry with anybody, did not. Susan B. Anthony and Lucy Stone, who are considered the leaders of the movement, they often quarreled with each other and said mean things about each other and so forth. But Lucretia Mott stayed friends with both sides of this argument. And mostly I admire her for her personal dedication. She, like all these women, their first cause was the abolition of slavery. And Lucretia Mott took a personal vow not to use anything made with slave labor. So that means no sugar, no rice, no coffee, no cotton. It's a huge commitment.
Yes.
And she didn't brag about it. She just did it. She didn't tell other people, you should do this too. She just did it. And so I really admire that kind of patient, low-key, but absolutely determined political strategy.
Ms. Dori, last question. Nowadays, we are living challenging times. And sometimes I feel like it's not much progress for women lately. How do you feel about the women's situations nowadays?
I think that the leadership from a century ago would be disappointed in us. We made a lot of progress in the 70s, but we've let a lot of it slip away. And we have way too many young women who just take it for granted and don't do anything to support other women, especially in terms of class. The people who have the real problems now, as always, are the poor women. And we should be paying a lot more attention to ending sexual harassment, raising minimum wages, collecting payments from their deadbeat dad, the fathers of their children. Those issues have kind of gone by the wayside lately, and I would like to see a lot more attention to that.
I hope that too. Thank you so much for this time, and I hope to be able to talk with you again soon, and it's been a pleasure.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.